the impact of the financial markets on retirement. Members of the House Labor Committee are arriving. They'll be hearing testimony by the CEO of Benefit Street, the Congressional Budget Office Director, and the Research Director of the Employee Benefit Research Institute. Live coverage here on C-SPAN 2.
The Committee on Education and Labor will come to order for the purposes of conducting an oversight hearing on the impact of the current fiscal and housing crises on workers' retirement security. In the coming months, this committee will examine what measures may be needed to ensure safe and secure retirement for workers, retirees, and their families. For starters, we know that 401k holders lack critical information about how their money is being managed and what fees they pay. I'm here to say right now that those days are over. We must have more transparency and complete transparency in 401k investment practices. The Wall Street veil of secrecy must end. I would like to thank all of our witnesses for joining us today, and I look forward to their testimony. And I expect that we will be back here repeatedly until we can ensure greater security for the retirement of all hardworking Americans. Teresa Gallarducci is the Irene and Bernard Schwartz Professor of Economic Policy Analysis at the New School for Social Research. Dr. Gallarducci specializes in pension benefits and is the author of several books, including most recently, When I'm 64, The Plot Against Pensions and the Plan to Save Them. She received her BA and PhD from the University of California at Berkeley. Dr. Gallarducci.
Thank you, Chairman Miller, for inviting me to talk about guaranteed retirement accounts. As you mentioned, most Americans...
We just heard from four people about the unguaranteed plans, okay? Non-guaranteed plans.
Right.
So we thought we'd have you come in.
Yeah, I like the placement. It does make sense because my proposal actually meets the principles of Dr. Weller. As we sit here, the number that you cited, that most Americans don't feel they can live comfortably in retirement, has only gotten worse. I mean, as we sit here, hour by hour, as the market fails, and Peter Orszag's numbers get worse. And the panic now actually tops off chronic anxiety that we've been seeing for the last 10 years. And that anxiety is caused by the corrosive effects of 401k plans and other defined contribution plans. Despite a 30-year history with 401k plans and DC plans, we have seen that we have not expanded pension coverage. We have not increased the national savings rates. Though we have added to the profits of the financial sector and to the expansion of the financial sector, and we have extracted ever-increasing tax subsidies from the Treasury. Now, every English major knows that if you show a gun in the first act, it'll be used by the last one. I am going to show you $80 billion of tax subsidies. By the end of my presentation, I'm going to spend it to help everybody. Short term, I propose, and I did last week in an op-ed to the New York Times, that the Congress allow workers to swap out their 401k assets, perhaps at August levels, for a guaranteed retirement account. Just a one-time swap, trading your 401k for a guaranteed retirement account that will be composed of the equivalent of government bonds that pay 3% real return. And the promise will be that when you collect Social Security, you can draw from that account balance for an annuity that would top off your Social Security plan. That plan is detailed in a paper, in a longer paper that I've submitted. How would this work? You go back to your districts and you meet up with a 55-year-old who had $50,000 in his account last month and now has $40,000 in account. He can swap out that $50,000 valued in August for that guarantee of what would become, if he retires at 62, a $500 a month addition to Social Security. The economy is probably in recession. We economists don't call it until after it's over, but a guaranteed income from his 401 account could actually take off some anxiety that recession is going to cause him. Now, the long-run solution is for you all to recognize that we have a long-term retirement crisis. It's not in Social Security, but it's in this heavily subsidized voluntary commercial tier of retirement security. Half the workers have not been covered at any one point in time by any kind of retirement account. And most Americans, especially the folks in your districts who are now under 60, are going to be at a real risk of not even replacing 70% of their retirement income. I propose that every worker get a guaranteed retirement account, that they mandate, that they save 5% on top of Social Security. That will, with a government credit of $600, that will actually give every worker at least 1% replacement rate, which will, on top of Social Security, give you a 70% replacement rate. Where do I get that $600 credit for everybody? I mean everybody, people who aren't covered. I get it from the $80 billion we now spend on DC accounts. The way the government now encourages 401k plans is to spend $80 billion in tax breaks, which, with Peter Orszag's research, we know goes to the very highest income earners. 6% of these subsidies, 50% of these subsidies go to 6% of the population. And all that happens is that we transfer money from taxed accounts to untaxed account. And worse, this inefficiency is growing. If you look at your Treasury numbers, the value of these tax expenditures to these wasted tax breaks are projected to grow 49%, while those for traditional plans are going to fall by 8%. If we implement automatic IRAs, or if we expand the 401k system, all we're doing is adding to this inefficiency. So I propose that Congress establish a universal pension plan on top of Social Security, funded by workers' own contributions, but subsidized by a rejiggering of those tax breaks, so that everyone has $600 going forward every year into their retirement account. Thanks.
Thank you very much. You described, or if I may characterize what I heard, that we're talking about a system with respect. A number of you touched on broader pension issues, but with respect to the 401k, it appears to be a plan that is not really well devised for the changes in the market. That we load an awful lot onto the back of the individual and I've been to more seminars and conferences where they ask for more and more education about savings and investing. But we keep asking this person to get smarter and smarter about their savings, and that's sort of it, and they're on their own, and then the market takes an abrupt turn, or they're not tuned in, they don't see it, and all of a sudden their future is changed to some extent. But I think the key point raised by Dr. Gherarducci, and Mr. Orszag, I'm going to direct this to you, is that we've invested $80 billion a year into subsidizing this activity, which originally I thought was sort of a savings plan, and now it's become a retirement plan. I don't know when it changed, but now everybody's told that that's their retirement supplement. And again, it appears that while we lament it all the time, the savings rate isn't going up for the investment of this $80 billion. In fact, it's probably going down, or appears that it's been on a downward trend for a number of years. What's the policy? I mean, what do we have to start to think about in Congress of whether or not we want to continue and invest that $80 billion for a policy that's not generating what we now say it should?